Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Spotlight with Sandalina, and I'm your talk show host, Sandalina Sattar. Today's very special guest is Hira Mustafa, who is a beauty influencer and a third-year law school student. First question, favorite part about living in New York City?
Sample sales.
Favorite neighborhood in New York City?
Tribeca.
Yeah.
It's nice so quiet.
Yeah.
It's really quiet.
I'd like to live there one day.
I wouldn't. You'd have to Uber everywhere.
Oh, is subway access not?
No, because people are so wealthy over there, they can just afford cars.
They can just afford. Maybe
Which
not
is not why I
Tribeca.
like it. I just like the vibes. It's just so quiet.
The vibes are really
Very
nice
clean.
down there. Yeah, it is exceptionally clean in Tribeca.
Yeah, because
Wow.
people can't get there.
Maybe I don't want to live in Tribeca. No. I don't want to pay for the Ubers. Any other cities you could see yourself living in?
I loved Chicago. But my husband and I are going to be firmly planted on East Coast.
Okay.
So I have to fall in love with all of the ones over here.
Okay, fair. Favorite Pakistani dish?
Oh, I'm a chana masala girl.
Ooh.
I love it.
I like that. Friendship icks.
Friendship X. Oh gosh. My friends do this thing where if I call them and I'm panicking, they say, "Do you want advice or do you want me to just listen?" And I think that has saved so many arguments. And so people who try to give advice when you just want to spew and yap, and you don't want to know how you can be a better citizen that day, that is kind of a friendship ick. I get overwhelmed.
Yeah. No, it's you can't really read the room.
No.
People that do that, it's very tone deaf. I feel sometimes.
Yeah.
Green flags in friendships beyond the one you just mentioned as a counterexample.
People remembering important like things coming up. Like I remember my friends have made me such a better friend. They would remember like when I had a job interview coming up, and they'd be like, "Hey, like good luck." I was like, "How do you know that?" They're like, "Oh, you mentioned it a couple weeks ago," and I was like. It's crazy to me, but like now I add people's milestones on my own personal calendar so that I remember, and it feels more like family.
That's very sweet. Are you good at remembering birthdays?
No, I have them on my calendar.
Yeah, but you go through the effort of doing. Yeah, maybe I should do. I'm really bad at birthdays, but I'm good at like somebody says they have something on Friday. On Friday, I'll be like, oh, I should text them and wish them luck. So I can do that.
If it's not on my calendar, I just don't remember.
No, that's valid. Closest friends in the creator space in New York City.
Ooh. Oh, wow. I met so many incredible people. Recently, I've connected with Satvika, and
I love her content.
What a light. She really, wow. Like, she's an immediate, like, I got very sick at a 5 a.m. concert, and I had, like, put it on my stories. We've hung out one time, other than outside of, like, events, and had, like, a fabulous time, but, like, are not so close that I'm just, like, calling her up for, like, hey, I need to help.
Yeah.
She text me, she's like, what can I do? Like, can I walk to you? Can I, and I was like, whoa, I didn't expect
That's
you
so
to
sweet.
offer that amount of help. I wouldn't have expected it. But so incredibly sweet and very brave. Really love her. Sundas, she's like one of the other few Pakistani creators, and like having that is very special. And she's also like, she's so good about responding to every message, she puts me to shame.
Favorite brand that you've collabed with so far first?
Basma Beauty will always have a special place in my heart. They were the first like collab or like partnership I ever did in my life. It was like one of the first products I had ever gotten. It's a foundation that I will literally use. Like, if Muslims did makeup in the casket, I would have that on. Oh my god! Like I wear it into the grave. It's so good. It's so good. It's really good.
That was quite the answer. Creative inspiration. Any people you look up to on social media?
Oh, so many. There's this influencer, Caro Beth. Really admire her stuff. There's this new creator, Angela Park. She does like very in-depth, like longer beauty reviews, and it's almost like YouTube on TikTok. And the fact that she's able to keep people's attention span is crazy to me, but it's like such a thoughtful analysis of products. I'm just very in awe and impressed by the content that she makes.
What's your dream brand collaboration?
I'm a big Dyson girl. Dyson hair. I'm obsessed with
Your
their
hair is always
era.
looking fabulous.
Thank you so much. So yeah, I'm obsessed with Dyson, so it'd be very cool to do a hair collab with them.
Any pinch me moments on your journey so far?
I remember someone had said on a random video of mine that she had been going through a really challenging time, like a very depressive episode in her life, and that the one thing that like she would do during her day is just go to my feed to watch my stuff. And that has always stuck with me. Like, it is mind-blowing to me that I could provide some solace or some comfort or some positivity when someone is going through something that challenging. So yeah, I don't know. It was a pinch me moment.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. What's your go-to outfit when you don't know what to wear?
A jumpsuit. You don't have
Yeah.
to think about
You're
pants,
wearing
bottom.
one
You pick one piece of clothing and you're done.
I love that you said that because that's how I feel about dresses.
Oh.
I'm like, dresses are so easy. You just
And
throw
you look
them on.
so good. You
Oh,
look so upscale, right? Like you're like, oh, you're dressed up,
Yeah.
and it's like, I don't want to put pants on.
Exactly. It's like a nightie, but
Oh yes.
with more shape and color and pattern. You just throw on some Air Forces or some, what's the new thing these days? Ballet flats. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
My husband hates those. Yeah.
Favorite beauty product right now?
Ooh, I've re-fallen in love with the IT Cosmetics CC Plus cream. I'm wearing it right now.
Okay, you look great.
It was my first big, thank you. It was my first big, like, big girl foundation purchase at Sephora. And then I hadn't used it in years because you get so much stuff. And
Yeah.
they just sent it to me recently. And I was like, this is so good. So I've been reaching for it a lot.
Go-to makeup look when you don't know what to do and you're in a rush.
Peach blush and a brown eye.
Yeah.
And I have 85 lipstick with the exact same mauve shade that I pretend are different, but they're really not.
Yeah.
And literally any of those.
Predictions for fashion trends in 2025. What do you think is going to be in? And what?
2025?
Yeah, it's we're filming this in September.
Damn.
It's almost the holiday season, sort of.
God.
Halloween, Thanksgiving.
A trend that I think think people are gonna chill out a little bit. I think people are like really overwhelmed with the trend, and I think people, I hope at least this is a change I've seen in me, gravitating more towards buying like staple pieces that speak to them and work for them rather than like trying to buy a $20 like quick thing that I can wear just for this season and then never think about again. So I hope that is a trend, like quality staples, a couple pieces that are really good quality that you go to again and again instead of like, here are my 80 shirts.
I love that. I really like that. And that was a really good answer because I think what people like is fickle. And it's really upsetting that's driven, again, you could write a whole thesis on this, probably like social media and like attention span and like consumerism and culture and fast fashion. And anyways, I love that answer.
And you lose your identity too.
Yes, I think that too.
Why are we excited when 80 people are wearing the same thing?
Yes.
It's like, it's exciting also when you have a piece that's kind of special to you that is not
Yeah.
the trend, but you feel really happy and confident in it.
I love that. And even though I'm the one that posed the question, I'm also very anti-trend, by the way. I'm always curious what beauty influencers think, but I don't get it. I'm like, people should just be themselves. Sometimes I walk down New York City, Manhattan, whatever streets on a Friday night, and I'm like,
You see so many people style one piece in so many ways. I feel like it's just, right? It inspires you. Like the sambas.
yeah.
I don't like the sambas. They cut up my foot so bad, but I bought them because I saw so many people style them in such cute ways. And I was like,
Yeah.
I want to look like that.
Yeah.
But also then you're seeing trends this fall that's like brown.
Yeah, no kidding.
Has brown not been the fall color for our whole existence?
And will continue to be
will be.
for the rest of the time. It is a timeless one. What's your estimated time split for law school versus being on social media?
I feel like I'm not going to get hired if I tell people. I try to get through my law school stuff as quickly as possible. I try to prioritize.
You're just efficient. You're an efficient reader.
I'm an efficient reader. ChatGPT is a lifesaver. During the school year, it's like 35% law and the rest to content and life.
Wait, that's fair, I think.
Is it? It feels small.
No.
It does take, law school does require a lot. I feel like I don't remember how much time I spend on it because I enjoy and remember you're going to remember at a brand event more than you're going to remember 80 pages of reading. 80
That's
again.
true. That's trure. 80. Is 80 your magic number tonight?
I know, something's happening.
I wonder what's going to happen. If you see something that says 80 like on an ad on the way back, text me. I want to know.
I have to. There's something going on. Okay.
And piece of advice you would give to any creators that want to break into the space?
I've been trying to have the mindset when I press record on my camera of like if my best friend was sitting, or like if I was on FaceTime with my best friend, like what would I be telling her about? And it's so much easier to just say what you want to say. And that's the things that make us unique, right? Like my phone call with my best friend is different from your phone call with your best friend. Yeah. But if we were both trying to review a blush, our responses could be very similar.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to bring back that. I feel like my beginnings of social media were very authentic and just fun in my life because I had no expectations or, I wasn't like getting stuff that I was like, oh gosh, this pressure to review and do all of this stuff. And I feel like I lost a lot of my oomph And I now I'm trying to go back into that. So I think that helps with authenticity of like, you're just talking to your friend. That's it.
I love that. Well, that wraps up our hot seat segment. Thank you so much. We've kind of talked about this and we've alluded to it throughout the episode. We have a very successful social media platform and you've been able to reach a lot of people, build a sense of community, talk about the topics that you care about, but also throw in beauty tips and cute products. And I think you do a really nice job sort of balancing it so it's easy to digest and it's fun. People look forward to seeing you on their feed when they scroll daily. So tell me a little bit more about the space that you take up on social media. Like what is it that means a lot to you and what have you been doing with your platform?
We talked about how I did improv comedy for 8 years and comedy to me was powerful for two reasons. One, I think it was the first stage or place in the universe that I could exist however I wanted to without critique. In the standard way of like, you're not supposed to sit like that. Don't be so loud. Don't be, I could act like a man on stage and get away with it. And that was really freeing and empowering for me. Because I would get in trouble for doing the same things as soon as I stepped off stage. And two, I think comedy has such a powerful way of making scary, big, heavy, sad topics easier to talk about. And
more bite-sized.
Yeah, more bite-sized. And, I think Hassan Minaj does this really well, where he tells a story, and it's just like a gut punch of a truth of the world. And right as you're feeling that in your stomach of like, oh, God, like, I can't believe this happened to you. I can't believe this is the case. Suddenly there's a little, like, right? Yeah. And it brings you back up. But that message still sits with you. Your body still holds that message. Yeah. And you still reflect on it, but you don't have this bad memory of like, oh my God, I saw this really awful movie about this heavy topic. You think, oh my God, it's such a fun show. And you know what? He brought up a good point.
Yes.
About this.
Yes. Yes.
And that to me is like I think comedy is one of the most powerful tools for influence and for education.
Yes.
And for that reason, I don't even try to. The way that I talk and the way that I talk about hard things and at the worst moments of my life to my husband's misfortune, I always crack jokes and it can never really be serious during those times he gets very stressed about it. He's a very serious man.
We need one of those in the relationship.
You need someone that's not crazy. And so to me, that is what I try to take up space for when it's, I'll teach you how to do your eyeliner and let's joke about how hard it is, or, let's talk about the upcoming election and how insane the consequences of that will be, but also, keep it fun as much as possible. And it makes these things less scary and real in a way that doesn't debilitate you from wanting to take action.
Yeah. And I love the analogy you used about comedy and how important that is. I mean, it's a part of your personal journey, but also the comparison with Hassan Minhaj and kind of what he does with his comedy. Yeah. I've been a huge supporter of and consumer of his content from a very young age too, and I absolutely agree. There's this sort of presence that he has that pulls you in. He evokes so much emotion from the audience, but he takes you through this roller coaster, and it's never too fast, it's never too slow, it's always just right. It's always timed, everything down to the millisecond. I mean, obviously, months of preparation going to one tour and it's all choreographed, but he does it so well. He does it so well and like nobody else. So I love that you said that. And I like that you kind of try to bring those elements into your social media presence, and I can see it. You're doing it well. I feel like there's depth to your content. You're not just another pretty face that wants to be advertising real estate for brands. You are somebody that really thinks critically and delivers content in a very easy to digest format, so people are, they're watching you do your makeup, but then they're also hearing you talk about things that really matter in this world. And I think that that's something that's so rare. And this is going back to sort of like the law school Elle Woods thing. It's the combination of beauty, brains, charisma, social intelligence. You're kind of pulling all of these things together, and social media is the tool for you to actually reach people and have impact. And I absolutely love that. So yeah, I thank you for doing what you do, because there's not that many people that can pull it off the way that you do, especially not many people that look like us that pull it off the way you do.
Thank you.
So I did want to put that out there. And on that note, what have been some of your biggest social media moments? Any sort of like big collaborations where like, wow, I can't believe I'm getting to collab with this brand, or any sort of video that maybe reached so many more people than you thought because the message just resonated, like anything like that?
Yeah. I think a lot of the times that I was just venting or telling stories about my day, whether it was some of the like racism I faced growing up in elementary school and whatnot, and people and making jokes about it, right?
Yeah.
Not in a way to keep it lighthearted of like, I can't believe this happened to me, crazy.
Yeah.
And then people really receiving that and being like, this is really heavy and you didn't deserve that. And I think other people being able to relate. There's so many people who are in, predominantly white institutions, cities, places, right, that feel so alone, have no idea other people are going through that too. And to be able to share something that other people say, me too, is really powerful. And I think something I get really excited about being my friend's cheerleader. Like I want to be when you get out of your first date, like I want you to call me because you know that I'm going to be so excited to hear every bit of it.
Yeah.
And we need those people in our life that are just obsessed with you.
Yeah.
My friend called me the other day. She goes, Hira, I need to talk to you. Are you free? I said, yes. She goes, I saw Nicki Minaj on the street. She has the biggest butt I've ever seen. And I was like, no, what? Like, we talked about this for 10 minutes. I was like, yeah, like, what? And my husband goes, Hira, why was that a phone call? I said, it was her day. Like, I need to know. I need to know. And it's just little things. And I think when people share little tidbits of their life, right, it may seem stupid and mundane sometimes, but you realize other people are going through it too. And being able to just relate and connect with other people is just such a special feeling. So being able to have moments like that where I've shared something and it's been received in a way that's like a relief of like, I'm not the only one, is a special kind of special.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that answer had nothing to do with KPIs or metrics. It's about qualitative. No, seriously. And it, by the way, it's okay if it did, right? It's okay if somebody comes on the show and says, this video reached millions of people and I was so happy. But for you, it wasn't even that. And I know there's videos of yours that have reached like a lot of people. But I love that your answer was rooted in the qualitative, emotional sort of impact. Yeah. It's very telling to sort of your intentionality and motivation behind all of it. So I love that.
Thank you.
On the note of social media, I think this would be a really good segue to sort of the next segment too. But there's a duality when it comes to social media, right? It's this beautiful, powerful tool that connects people, but there's also a dark side to the internet. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of hate that creators face, especially I feel, when you're part of these like communities, right? Whenever you identify with the community, you're able to hit a niche, but you're also able to come across a lot of criticism from that same niche, right?
Yeah.
So what's your experience been like with backlash on the internet, if you've gotten any?
Yeah, I've gotten plenty. Initially, it was very little and very easy to brush off because when you're just starting out, right? One person being like, "Oh, you're ugly," is like, okay, what are you gonna do about it? And I remember my friends would be like, "Hira, like." People who are like nobodies don't have haters, right? Like people don't waste their time hating on people that are nobodies. And I was like, yeah, like having haters is a badge of honor, right? Like it's like you're doing something, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But then they come in thousands, and then you get death threats, and you see comments, right, that are like, oh, I saw you, whatever, this place in New York. Next time I see you, I'm gonna harm you. And other people come and be like, oh yeah, I'll add to it. I'll dogpile onto this. And it's this. Right? And then right under is like, what's your lip combo? And reading that as a real person, right, is you feel like there's someone sitting right there saying all those things to you in a microphone, looking at you. And you, maybe they're wearing, right, a mask and you don't even know who's under there. You don't know if they're a 12-year-old that, has the Wi-Fi password. You don't know if it's a 50-year-old man who lives next door to you. You don't know. And I think that can be really overwhelming, and it's scary. But I think also the things that kind of keep you afloat. I remember like I had put up a Christmas tree this past year in my apartment. My husband and I are not particularly religious. We had put it up, and whatever we had.
It's a cultural, it's an American,
we had hot chocolate and whatever else, right? Like, whatever.
It's the holidays, who cares? Yeah.
And to us, it was always just like this Americanized thing, like 4th of July, fireworks, right? Like, it was to us, it was whatever. And I remember there were people were like, you are the worst representation of this community. Like, we we rebuke you, like we, like, you know, like it, and all this stuff. And when thousands of people are saying, this is what's wrong with you, you need to have people that are saying, that are in your corner, that you can do a gut check and be like, am I as evil as people are saying I am? And I have friends that are very honest with me, and if I've said something that, right, is inappropriate, or they're like, oh, like, I can see how, right, very honest with me. And I think when you're around the people that I'm around, right, I'm like with lawyers and my husband's a doctor, so you're around a certain types of people that you're like, oh, like, you're rational, you're respectful, you, I mean, not everyone is, but generally, right? Like, I'm not interacting with people who are trolls and all this in real life.
Yeah.
But yet when you see a comment, you assume that they're some average of the people that you know exist,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
this is a rational person telling me you deserve death. So then, you know, if Zeb's colleague said that to me, I'd be like, oh God, did I do something? Right.
Yeah.
And so I would have these phases where I would be getting like the all of this, like, culmination of like all this anger and hatred. And for a long time, I just dealt with it alone, because I was like, what a stupid thing to be like, oh, these like anonymous people on the internet are making me feel terrible.
Yeah.
But then I opened up to some of my close friends, and they were like, Hira, this is crazy. And it is normal for you to be feeling like crazy, right? And I also talked to my friend recently about how so many times you can believe something so firmly, like, right, like, your weight does not equal your health, right? Like, I've talked recently about my journey on social media of trying to eat healthier and be healthier, and like this misinformation that if you're just stereotypically skinny, that you're healthy, you're good, and vice versa. And that is like so far from true, right? And so, you know, sharing those things, and right, like, I'm like, oh, it's like really important for a lot of people to be gaining weight, to be a healthy weight, and that was something that I was going through after I had lost so much weight planning the wedding. Got married, and finally for the first time in my life, was at a weight that I was like, whoa, like, this is like in the normal range at the doctor, this is good. And then I started getting all these comments of fat shaming, right? Like, of like, oh my God, you're clearly gaining weight. Are you pregnant? Are you this? Are you that? And even if you know, looking in the mirror, you're like, I know I'm at a healthy weight. I know this is a positive change for me, right? It still gets to you. And then even though you can firmly believe in that, the next time someone offers you a dessert, you're eating a dessert, that's what you're thinking about. Like, wow, like, the world is now going to perceive me as this. And that is such a weird thing, to still feel the consequences of things you don't even believe. That is something that was new for me, and I didn't quite understand, and it made me feel like a hypocrite. Of like, or right, like, oh, your skin is so right, like you shouldn't be going out in the sun, you've gotten so tan, whatever. Like, I'm like, I'm really excited to be tan. Like, right, growing up, it was like a fair and lovely all over the place. And then you grow up, be like, oh, this is really sick and twisted and inappropriate, right? But then, right, when thousands of people are saying icky stuff about you because you've gotten tanner, right? Suddenly those are voices in your head that you're thinking of.
Those are the thoughts.
So you have to really be thoughtful about not letting that take over your life, and regrounding and remember.
Really applaud the fact that you are able to ground yourself, but also the fact that you're able to be open about the fact that, hey, you know, it's not easy.
Yeah.
People don't like to admit the impact of negativity, because it's like you said, you know, in theory, people know that these are just nameless nobodies, but when you're sitting there alone reading it, you assume the worst. And I think that it's something I've struggled with too. I've gotten hate, nearly not on the same scale or threat level as you've received, but even my morsel of it, it's not easy. There's most days I can just get out, you know, these are just like weird loser people. But sometimes, you see something that actually confirms an insecurity you had in your own head.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, other people see it too. And it becomes this vicious cycle. But on that note, social media, it's a beautiful place. It can also be a destructive place. I want to talk about the role of social media in the world of relationships, right? So you're somebody that's open about the fact that you're married to an amazing man, and you're also an amazing woman. So, you know, it goes great. And I think that we've kind of talked about this a bit off camera too. But there's a lot of mixed messaging on social media when it comes to love, to relationships, to marriage. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your experience in marriage, and then some of the messages that you've seen on social media that you think, may not be reflective of what the true marriage experience is like as a woman.
Yeah. On social media, it is so easy to think that a healthy relationship means that he's getting you flowers every week and making you a gift box and has a t-shirt that has your face on it and, these grand gestures and these grand proposals and all of that. And this whole concept of if he wanted to, he would, right? It's so easy to look at all of that content and say, this is the standard. If I'm not getting this version of love, I am settling or I am not getting what I deserve. And while some people absolutely give love and receive love in that way, I don't want to discredit, right, the people that do. I think it is misleading because so many people show love in ways that are so soft and subtle that are not sexy to see on social media. And it's like the things that Zeb did that to me were like, this is a good person. This is someone that I want to have in my life, would not have gotten views on social media.
Right.
Right? It's the first time that we had ever spent time in person. It was me and my brothers and his brother, and we drove from Connecticut to New York for the afternoon. And the way that he looked after my brothers, like he had his eyes on them like he was a Secret Service agent.
I love that.
Just making sure. And he made us take such long routes to make sure that, my baby brother really likes the NBA. And I remember it was so cold. It was so cold. I was like, please just get back to the car. And he was like, no, we have to go this route. And it was a little bit longer, but we passed the NBA store because he knew that I think that'll be exciting for her little brother to see. And we walked into Grand Central Station, and there was a gentleman who was, dealing with homelessness and looked like maybe he needed some help or something. And the number of times Zeb turned around and just kept turning around to look to see, am I needed? Can I do something? Is there an action I can take? And it ended up being, no. But you could just see that this person cares about people, not in this flashy way, not in your brother likes basketball, I'm going to get him a signed basketball. This guy's on the show, I'm going to, just all these things. It wasn't for show. It was just who he is and the little things that he does for me, right? Like every night, I almost always I go to sleep later than him. No matter what, the light on my side of the bed is on so that when I come into the room and it's dark, I don't trip over anything and then I can get to my side of the bed. He doesn't need to do that. That's not some grand gesture that I'm like, oh, my man, right? Like, but to me, every time I see it, I'm like, I feel cared for. And I think my mom did a really good job of telling me the things that really matter in marriage, right? Like what someone looks like, how much money they make. She said, never fall in love with things that can be taken away from someone. And looks fade, money can be taken away, they can change their career, like all these things, right? Accidents happen, they can lose their mobility, like so many things.
Yeah.
She's like, the things that you should fall in love with and should be top of your list are the things that cannot be taken away. And that's kindness, that's respect, that's the way he treats his family, right? Like those are things that matter more to me than what he looked like, his height, his job, all of those things. And right, so many people are like, oh, easy for you to say, like you ended up, right? Like I'm very happy with the situation I have. Phenomenal in-laws, like straight, like I could not have dreamed of better people to have in my life. I'm very
beautiful.
lucky and very grateful to have them. But also had I have looked for the grand flashy things, I wouldn't have picked them, right?
Yeah.
He's not the guy, our proposal, he didn't hire a photographer. He was like very scared. He doesn't like dancing on the dance floor with me at all. I really need someone on the dance floor with me. All these things that I thought when I was looking for a partner, I was like, I want someone who wants to be the center of attention with me, dancing and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he compliments me in ways I wouldn't have anticipated, and not in ways that I would have ever put on any dream list of mine, but in ways that now that I'm with him, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad this is who you are, right? And I was like, I'm in comedy. I do all that stuff. I don't need the funniest guy in the world. I didn't expect this shy guy who was too scared to ask for my number a month in was going to be the one making me laugh so hard I sobbed, right? Like it's all these like things that you learn and grow together. But I think, right, like people so often will overlook disrespect or just like bad views or these expectations because, oh, it's a hot guy that's 6'2", or he has a great job, he has so much money, all this stuff. And it's really heartbreaking for me to see. And I think a lot of single women that I talk to, right, when I'm like, oh, what's important to you? What are you looking for? Some of my friends recently who have found partners had been the ones who said to me, like, I just want someone who's really kind. I want someone who's really kind. And they are, right, in relationships that are happy, healthy. From what I can see, I hope that is, you know, the case behind the scenes as well. But some of my friends are in a phase where they're like, it's really important to me that he be this tall and this hot, right? Like, I'm right. And that's fine, right? A level of attraction is one thing, but I think some of these really big key things you're not going to find on any like guidance TikTok or from some role model relationship. And from my own experience, I think, and a lot of my friends, sometimes the more people share, the more people want to show off and flash how amazing and perfect their partner is, the more sometimes is going wrong behind the scenes. And that is something that they're trying to prove to themselves and to put on a front for the world. And that is like way scarier because then you have this expectation from the world that, oh, I've told everyone this is perfect. Now it's even so much harder to step back and admit that you know, something negative was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. And I think you touched on so many important, beautiful themes and all of that. The first one is, what is love really about, right? I completely agree. Gen Z dating culture literally gives me nightmares. I think the way that our generation has gone about dating has completely distorted the view of human needs and desires, right? It's completely turned these like superficial, almost like these sound bites into things that people actually start looking for day in and day out. I know this was like a humorous thing. I'm looking for a man in finance. Trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes. And like, haha, yeah, it's a funny summer song. Actually, there are a lot of people that really do think that way. I am somebody that's, you know, very drawn towards, I've actually never talked about myself in the context of romance before, but here's the first time on the show. I'm somebody that's really drawn to just kindness. It's really just kindness. It's that intentionality. It's the thoughtfulness, it's the care, it's the thinking beyond the surface, your future, thinking about the way the world works, thinking about the human condition, and getting lost in philosophical thought almost. But I think that those are the things that to me matter as somebody that has a head on their shoulders. And it's really hard being 23 and having that outlook because you looked at a lot of your peers and they're looking for completely different things. There might be situations where maybe I have an interest and people look at me and must think, well, what do you see in that guy? Right. It's more than what meets the eye. And I think that those are the traits that really matter in marriage, in partnership. Social media comparison is the thief of joy. I've said that so many times on this show and I will say it almost every episode. It is the toxic drug that keeps social media afloat. I think that is the thing that people come back for. Yeah, they come back to consume content and learn, but really there's this insecurity in a lot of us to see, oh, what's everybody else up to, right? And it's driven by this, it's a human nature, right? Where we want to acquire, it's almost evolutionary, right? It's like you want to acquire data points, right, about your surroundings because it's survival of the fittest. I think it's that behavior that drives this, but social media takes us and conflates this to a really unhealthy sort of level. Yeah. And it's really disappointing because you know who the collateral damage is? It's actual living people, right? It's funny that, you know, maybe somebody got millions of views off of a catchy soundbite, but how many young, impressionable girls too? And we're a bit older, but like if I was like 11, 12, scrolling on TikTok and seeing songs about, you know, I need a man that's this tall, and ladies, if he wanted to, he would. Don't give him a second chance. Walk away, like run, don't walk. I'm just like, people. What it's done, it's stripped people of the ability to be human, right? And I think knowing your worth is really rooted in a deeper understanding of what it is that you need. Yeah. And I think that knowing your worth isn't just slapping somebody in the face emotionally the second they're imperfect, right? So I think there's a lot to be said about social media and dating culture and the way that it's just so misleading.
Yeah.
I also love one last thing you touched on is a lot of times, the people that are showing the bouquets of flowers and this and that, a lot of times it's overcompensating for something deeper that's missing. It's some sort of illusion they need to create for themselves, that, this is perfect, this is great. And again, amplifying a false narrative is ultimately harmful to everybody that's believing it.
Yeah.
And it's sad, and it's an awful thing. And I also think about, we talked about this off camera too, the role of a little bit about, gender roles, right? When it comes to relationships, the perception of gender roles, within our community, right? Where oftentimes women are grown up to be very sheltered. Thankfully, that's changing in our generation because there are women like you and me that get to move to big cities and live out our dreams. But the reality is not all women have access to these sort of resources, right?
Yeah.
This sort of knowledge and education. And I think one thing we talked about off camera that I really want to take a second to bring to this show is the importance of that financial independence as a woman. And I know this is something that you're passionate about. So I'd love to just give you the floor. Like, I'd love to hear about your thoughts on the subject.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the trend, right, of the 6'5" blue eyes. And another trend that I've seen more recently is about, find you a man that tells you that, find a man that makes it that you don't have to work a day in your life again, and that will that will fund your life for you, so that you just have to sit home and look pretty or whatever it may be, right? And to some extent, right, it's a joke of haha, yeah, it'd be so nice to, right, passenger princess, I don't have to lift a finger, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
He should be the bread earner, all that stuff, right? And I was talking to one of my friends about this, and I said, yeah, women have started to think that is something that is a positive change that they can, desire for their life. And she's like, no, people know it's a joke. And I said, I don't think so. I don't think everyone knows that. And I've talked a couple times on my page about how important I think it is, and on the flip side, how dangerous I believe it is for women to not have some access to their own income, if possible, or at least an option to turn that income on. And I've talked about this, and people are like, oh, you don't trust your husband. Oh, your husband doesn't provide for you. Oh, what are you anticipating, a divorce? What, right? All of these things. And I was like, well, first of all, right, even at the overarching, could your partner not pass away? Could he not, he or she not, lose their job? Could they not decide a career? There's so many different things that can happen in addition to divorce, which also happens. But the things that I really, really worry about are, situations of domestic violence. And right, we saw the whole, a lot of conversation about DV recently with It Ends With Us movie. And as I was talking to one of my friends about this trend of women don't need a job and all of this stuff, this other woman had stepped out and had caught the end of our conversation and was asking what we were talking about. And I was sharing my own experience of why I think this is so important. And she said, yeah, I am currently going through a divorce proceeding. My husband abused me and my child. And the only reason I was able to leave is because I have this doctorate degree, and I'm able to go back to work to fund us leaving and to get my divorce attorney.
Wow.
And it, I knew it was important. I've been talking about this, but to see a face with that exact story articulating how important that is,
yeah,
it gave me goosebumps. And what an outstanding woman to share that and to go through that and to step away with her child. But why, do we think women are marrying people who they think might be a domestic abuser?
Yeah.
Right?
You never know.
Why would you, right? Of course people are not, well, I hope people are not going into relationships with people who, the red flags are glaring and all of that. But this expectation that, right, this is just not going to happen to anyone is wild to me. And it's really unfortunate because so many women go through it, especially in the South Asian community.
Yes.
And we're told, shut your mouth, don't talk ill of your partner or your in-laws, if he's providing for you, look at how much he's done for you. I remember growing up in my community, there was some drama on TV about this very wealthy guy who had fallen in love with this woman who had like grown up in poverty and married her and gave her this grand life and all of this, right? And then he hit her, and she told him, you know, if this ever happens again, I'm gone. And of course, it happens again, and she left. And I remember this was a discussion at one of the parties. And, you know, the aunties, my mom was like, I'm so glad that they represented a woman like walking away and like not staying for money and all this stuff, right? Like it's really important that women see that. And my mom's from Karachi, and I remember there was another auntie that was like, oh, those Karachi girls. You know, what their expectations.
Oh my God.
Look at how much he gave her. Look at how much he did for her. What's a couple slaps?
No.
And that was
I just got goosebumps from that.
Crazy to me that people think that there is a price to abuse. And so, I mean, there's so many reasons why I think, you know, I think it gives you power, stability, confidence, all these things to have your own income.
Yeah.
I think every woman should be financially literate. I think money and wealth is power, whichever way you cut it in society.
Yeah.
And to give up your personal access to it, even if whatever you want to say that your partner is giving you an allowance or whatever, but like if the power of how that is controlled has you have no access to that, I think it is a very dangerous position. And also, like, right, like we have all these issues of people like living through their kids and not having all, right, like all these different things with parents, all these complications and in-laws and all this stuff. To have your own life and your own world to keep you going and to grow in and to pursue your own dreams and what you want your life to look like is a different thing. I think it transforms lives. It helps prevent so many different, you know, marriage issues and whatnot. But yeah, I think people don't realize how dangerous that concept is for women not to have access to their own income, if possible.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's really sad that it's something that's so prevalent. Well, across humanity, but also specifically within our communities too. And it's you can even, this is just an example of one get together and one set of conversations and dialogue, but really it's representative of a mindset, right, that's infiltrated our community, which strips women of the ability to walk away in a lot of situations. I love what you said. People think there's a price to abuse. No, there's no price. There's nothing in this world that can justify any of that. And I really wish more people understood that. I think, you know, in Western society, I see a lot of women kind of, and this is maybe not their fault, but I see a lot of women just say, I don't care. And it's like, well, you don't care because you don't have to. But what if there's a day you have to? What do you do then? Right? And it's not about a distrust in a partner. It's just about, you just have to be wise. And it's not even about distrust, but like, God forbid, anything could happen. Yeah. You should never be in a situation where you are so reliant on any other human being. Even a parent. I would argue the same with a parent. You never know, God forbid, what can happen tomorrow. So be able to be somebody that can provide for yourself, to provide for your nuclear family, your loved ones, if you need to, you should be able to. Yeah. And I think that's power in itself. So. And
it goes back to what to look for in a partner, right? Yeah. There are days you come home, law school is tough, right? And you see this and you, right? Like I'll crack a joke of like, Zep, what if I just dropped out? Right? And he knows it's a joke, but of course he takes it very seriously, and he's like, absolutely not, right? Like you've worked so hard for that, right? Like, and it's always this lecture, and I'm like, oh, come on. But right, and some women comment on my stuff, and they're like, oh, like, was it hard to convince your partner to let you continue your education? Was it hard for your in-laws to support your education, right? So what blows my mind, and right. And I don't mean to be judgmental, I'm just genuinely perplexed, is I know several women who gone to like grad programs, particularly med school, gone through residency, and then like once I get through residency, I can get married, and then I don't have to work.
Wow.
But what did you do all that work for?
And the debt.
Right? But it's one thing if you're like, oh, I can go back to it if needed, right? Sure. But like this thing of like, oh, I just need to work hard enough so that I can find a partner that will let me be a housewife. Is that I've heard that sentiment, and it blows my mind.
Wow.
And it concerns me. I'm like, what about your life, right? Like, you worked so hard on this, especially med school. That's crazy.
Yeah.
How many years and how many hours have you sacrificed for this? But, you want a partner that is, like, so fiercely supportive. Like, my in-laws, I remember even before we got married, one of the first gifts my mother-in-law gave me when I was studying for the LSAT, this was before I had even met him and his family in person, mailed me an LSAT timer watch. So I could put it on my wrist and practice my test without having to check my phone. Like,
that's
and
so
it was
sweet.
those little things, right, that showed me, like, and also she is, like, one of the most outstanding, like, she is a world-renowned specialist. She's incredible, like, such an inspiring person. But I knew that was supportive. His father was, like, he literally, it brings him to tears to talk about how important it is for him to equally educate daughters as sons.
Yes.
And it's something his mom does, and it always brings him to tears to talk about it. He said that is one thing my mom said, if you're getting a degree, so are you. And the education must be equal for society to, continue to progress. And so, like, just incredible support all around. And I can't imagine if on a terrible day of school when you just feel like quitting and throwing the towel, if also your in-laws and your husband were rooting for you to drop out.
Yeah.
Wild.
That would be crazy.
To me, it's a deal breaker if your spouse or your in-laws, which to me have a very big influence on your life, do not support you getting an education or working. I would not marry that man. Like, the deal breaker. Do not marry that person.
Absolutely. And I think one thing I do want to footnote for the audience is, as much as we're talking about this, it's not to shame people that choose not to work. It's more so understanding the importance of having the optionality. And if you choose not to work, that's okay. That's fine. But if you're gonna work really hard to do something because you're passionate about it, don't just forget it. Don't I like what you said, don't work hard enough just to get married to have somebody else pay your bills, right? Unless of course you like want to focus on maybe something more creative or maybe something like, like raising your kids. I think I don't want anybody listening to feel like that's not, the message is contradictory to that message. I think these two messages can coexist, right? Is the importance of financial independence and freedom as a woman. But it's more than just that. It's about having the choice. If you're forced into being a housewife, if you're forced into sitting at home, whether it's by yourself or by your partner or your in-laws, that's a horrible thing. I think there's a beauty in choice, but it's really when it's your choice. Yeah. It's the autonomy and freedom to choose. So,
and I have unlimited respect for stay-at-home moms. Like, it's,
my mom's a stay-at-home.
Same with my mom.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she, was gone all day. I don't know what it would be. And my husband, right? My husband's mom was at work all the time, and he has the flip side of that. And he's like, "Oh, my parents were never home. Like, I didn't, like, they weren't there at whatever, like, these different school events." And I was like, my mom was there at everything, right? And so, but you have, like, right, the pros and cons to every version of how you choose to lead your family, and certainly no one right way to do it. I do think though, right, that like they can coexist, and having you can do a side hustle. Yeah. You can do a little candle making in the kitchen, right? Like, there's little things, there's ways, and I hope every woman that wants to have an opportunity to have a job, to have an income, is able to do that. And I surely hope that societal pressures or her partner would not be the thing that would stop it.
Yes, yeah. I completely agree, and I think that's a really good note to tie a bow on the whole topic. So as we sort of wrap up the episode, I wanted to ask you, do you have any plans upcoming in your future that you can tease a little, whether it's in your future as a lawyer maybe, or maybe it's something in the creator space, anything that you're excited about that you're working on?
Ooh. I want to, I think more recently I've wanted to find a way to really give back to my community, to, I don't know, like people who relate to my experiences in different ways, whether they want to go to law school and whatnot. And I had these high aspirations when I came to New York of like, oh, I like want to start this like group to help people who are interested in law. I want to start this group and that group. And then the time gets sucked out of your life so quickly. And so I'm hopeful that as I get a little bit more time, I'm able to find ways to give back and like bring people together in different ways, whether that's, I tried to do this brown girl meetup forever ago, and it's so hard to coordinate and technically illegal to bring more than groups of 20 people into Central Park without a permit, which I learned. So
I have the same issue with Wholesome Hangouts sometimes. I understand. It's a...
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm hoping that I can find some creative ways. But I think, less planning, more under construction time of my life, where I'm trying to figure out how my career is going to blend in with this and whatnot. But the one thing I'm more excited about than probably anything is that my husband is going through allergy treatments for his cat allergies.
Ooh!
And I hope they work. He's so far promised to me that I will get a cat in January sometime, which is going to complete my whole life. I don't think I'll ever request or need anything else.
That's really sweet.
In my life after that. But that is something that is
exciting.
Top of mind that I'm very excited
That is
about.
very exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you get that cat soon.
Fingers crossed.
That's amazing. And then final question, one sentence, message to the world for anybody that's listening. What would it be?
I think disappointing the people around you will never weigh as heavily on your heart as disappointing yourself.
Wow.
That's what I think something I've been thinking a lot about.
That's very powerful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
What a way to end an episode. Thank you so much. Out with the bang.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. It's been an honor to hear you and your very well articulated thoughts. So thank you so much for opening up.
Thank you for having me and listening to all of my rambles. It's been a grand time.
That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and come back next Sunday for the next full-length episode. In the meantime, I'm your talk show host, Sandalina Sattar, signing off.